Good evening. Welcome to the City of Glendale Civil Service Commission March 27, 2013 regular meeting. In the absence of our chair, Art Devine, I welcome you all, and I ask for a roll call, please.
Commissioner Manukian.
Here.
Commissioner Gantis.
Here.
Commissioner Hatamian.
Here.
Vice Chair Gazarian.
Here.
For the record, Chair Devine is absent tonight.
Second item on the agenda are the minutes.
Minutes.
Move to approve. Second.
Unanimous consent?
Yes.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda,
Oral communications.
I have no cards before me. Is there anybody that wishes to make a comment? Seeing none, hearing none. Next item, please.
Recruitment and examination report.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is the recruitment and examination workload status report. This is a note and file item, but just as a refresher, we do list all of the positions with which there's some recruitment activity currently. We have the filing periods, the dates of written exams, performance exams, oral boards, and such. This report has remained fairly steady over the past few months. There's a slight uptick you see in some of the recreational positions as we prepare for our summer programs and aquatics and day camps and things like that. But otherwise, it's fairly stable as far as the recruitment load. Again, if you have any questions about this report or any of the specific recruitments, be happy to try and answer them for you.
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Doyle. Next item, please.
Eligible lists established.
Mr. Doyle.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, like the previous report, this is a note and file, but it's a notification of the eligible lists that have been established since our last meeting, which was just 2 weeks ago. We do have 5 lists that have been established, 4 of them promotional exams and 1 open. As you can see from the way the report is arranged, we have the total number of applicants received, and then in the far right column, the number of people who made it through that process and appear on our eligibility list. Seeing how most of these are promotional, we have a much smaller number of applications for those, but you will see note that the Chief Information Officer, which is an executive level position, we had a total of 76 applicants apply, and we ended up with 2 on the list, and that's fairly typical these days of some of our processes. With that, if you have any questions about any of those recruitments, again, I'd be happy to try and answer those questions for you.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Next item, please.
Class specification for approval, utility building repair.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is a new class specification for approval. It's utility building repairer, and this is a position exclusively in the Glendale Water Department, hence the name utility. This is essentially taking an existing classification, a building repairer, and specializing it for the work done in the utility. The building repair classification performs skilled maintenance and repair work throughout the city. We have most of them are employed here at City Hall. We have some in the Parks Department who do their own set of specialty duties, mostly in the area of irrigation work. But this is a citywide classification, but we do have 2 who work in the Glendale Water and Power Department, actually at the Utility Operations Center, performing this type of work exclusively at city facilities. And it is a bit different from the work that the other building repairers do. They'll be working in pumping plants, reservoirs, treatment plants, and things like that. Different types of facilities, different training required. Hence, we're recommending a separate job classification. Also, these positions will be moving from one bargaining unit to a different one, similar to all the other, most of the other classifications working out of the Utility Operations Center. these employees work with the utility crews, and therefore they'll be part of the IBW Local 18 group. So with that, again, if you have any questions about this specification, I'd be happy to try and answer them. Rosie Akopian is here, who worked on this specification as well. So.
Questions? Commissioner Gantis?
Are we retaining the building repair classification as well as the utility building repair classification?
Yeah, yes.
And are there building repair employees that are in the GWP?
Yes, sir. There are two right now.
I mean, but they will stay there? They're the two that would possibly transfer out to the utility building repair?
That's correct.
So we won't have building repairs in GWP?
That's correct.
Any other questions?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous consent. Next item, please.
The forecast.
Mr. Doyle?
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, this is your agenda forecast. This is a note and file, unless you have anything to add to some of our upcoming meetings. I will note on April the 10th, we are back, or we'll have our next meeting, and Chairman Devine is expected back. At that meeting, as far as we know at this point, we have a couple of items, as well as we'll do a closed session for a new disciplinary case.
A new case?
Yes. So the chair will be assigning a member to that.
And what date was that?
That's for April the 10th.
I won't be here April 10th. I think I will let you.
Okay. Okay, you can let us know.
But I wanted to ask my fellow commissioners, if we wanted to request an item to be put on the agenda, is this the place, or we do it during civil service comments?
Either
You would do that during the commissioner comments.
Thank you. Then I'll wait, sir.
Okay, very good.
Any further items on the agenda forecast, Mr. Doyle?
No.
Very well, thank you. Next item, please.
Reports, past due employee performance evaluations.
Mr. Gantis?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman Kazarian. The no past dues are with the City Manager's Office, Community Development Department, Glendale Water and Power, the Library, Police, and Public Works. These all have no past dues. Out of our salaried employee count of 1,492 employees, we have a total of outstanding job performance evaluations of 22, which is a pretty darn good. Less than 2% are outstanding. We congratulate those departments.
Indeed. Any further comments on this? Thank you. Next item, please.
Civil Service Commission, staff comments.
Commissioner Manukian?
Yeah. One thing I wanted to share with my fellow commissioners, and get your thoughts on it, and I'm hoping that maybe we might put this on the agenda at a later date for us to review. One thing that I've noticed lately is more and more we have these, during closed session, we have similar qualification transfers, and mostly I'm seeing, some of these employees that are they're not making their probation period. One thing that I wanted to do is maybe put this on an agenda for us to talk about what is it that we're doing wrong. Not necessarily here, or it could be a combination of both, because we're spending all this money. We're trying to identify these individuals to make it through the program. We do everything, and then we end up losing them either in probation period, or I wanted to see if there is anything we can do to help, or just talk about that a little bit in detail to see if there's a way of salvaging some of these situations where we could help the employee make it through, or different alternatives. It's something that I noticed more and more, that we have these closed session items for these transfers, and just a thought, I wanted to see if it's something that you guys want to consider.
Commissioners?
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I think that's a good point. I think as part of that, you'd want to ask how many
Yeah, and I
employees
don't know.
actually fail probation. I mean, if we hire 1,000 a year and 2 fail probation, then I guess we're okay.
Yeah.
But if if 200 fail probation? I mean, I think we need to know that as part of the program and what alternatives we might have to possibly assisting that.
And
I
we
think.
might not even have a
Yeah.
problem. So we only get to see the portion that we lose. As you said, if it's 1 out of 1,000, then there's nothing really to be. But I'm just noticing more and more these are coming up. So
Maybe if we, do you think it would be a good idea to maybe get a report from HR to determine what
Exactly.
the numbers are of the probationary releases versus my understanding where there were, some of them were reclassification for the purposes of human resource allocation. So maybe get a report and at that time make a determination.
sure, absolutely. And if your review comes back and says, hey, this is standard and there's nothing that we could do to help,
Sure.
That would be the end of that.
We could put a report together, very brief, and describing the numbers. And I think I would like to get clarification. We do put forth these similar classification transfers where, a new title is being created, someone's moving laterally. I think what you were asking about was
New hire,
the new hires that are not going to pass probation, yet we find another place for them. Is that more
Yeah,
or less what?
exactly.
Okay, I'll focus it on that. Those are typically the lower qualification transfers. And I can give you history and why we do it, and it probably helped to have some folks from the police department here, because in many of these cases, in fact, most of them do fall.
that was my other question. Is it some of the description that we have for the positions, maybe we're not, the individual's not quite understanding the position itself, and then when they get in, they find out, well, this is something different than, so I think,
Okay, that'd be a good
That was-
discussion.
Thank you, sir.
We'll have that in an upcoming meeting.
I have a comment, Mr. Doyle. I'm in agreement with what appears to be perhaps a pattern of late. At least 2 or 3 occasions we've had incidents where a request is made for a lower qualification transfer or lower classification transfer, and perhaps it would be useful to the Commission to hear from the agency in question that those transfers have been requested from, or from within, that being the police department. And I don't know, I tend to think that our police department has excellent requirements for qualifications to have someone be a police officer in the city of Glendale. So I would be surprised to think that there's some gap or a lack of checks and balances in allowing those to come in who perhaps should have been noted not to be qualified to pass through the probationary period at the outset. So it would be informative to hear what circumstances may have arisen post-hiring that may have caused the individual to request a lower qualification transfer, as opposed to how can we now make the hiring process any better, because I think it's pretty good.
Yeah,
the hiring
no,
process
that's
is very
exactly
good.
what I was trying to, and ultimately, it's because I know how hard the police department,
Right.
the effort that they put to get these recruits, and they go through everything, and then all of a sudden, they're at the finish line, and they end up. So you hit it exactly dead on. It's something that, not to bring our qualifications down, but if there's a way we could help, or to find a way of not losing. You said it best. I'll leave it up to you.
Very well.
Hit it right on the head.
Any further comments? Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
Closed session for the following items: public employee appointment, lower qualifications transfer, community service officer custody. Second item, public employee appointments, 2 similar qualifications transfers for the position of utility building repair.
Very well. I believe this is the time that we will go into closed session. We will be reporting